All right, we're back, and welcome again to the JFK Assassination Audit. It is number 43, and it's 16 January, and we're going to continue with Lenny Mae Randall. We've been going over her testimony, and a few things we learned is that she stated the bag was 27 inches long, in the Warren report, and all this stuff, and even in videos. But in the initial beginning, we have this FBI agent Bookout who supposedly talked to her, took her statement, and said that Lenny Mae Randall said the package Oswald was carrying was 42 inches. Okay, which doesn't make a lick of sense. And also to remember that she said that Oswald was holding on to one end of the package and dragging it across the ground. Now, if you obviously had a heavy rifle, metal barrel, and wooden stock inside this package, don't you think it would get ripped up a little bit? Don't you think they would leave grass stains or some kind of tears on the package? But we have no tears on the package at all. And again, why would Oswald, if he was going to assassinate the president, be handling his rifle in such a casual way? And again, why even use this, like I've said before, why even use this paper bag when you could just carry it in the blanket that you had before and just tie a rope around it and say, hey, yeah, it's curtain rods. Same thing. Anyway, we'll keep going here. I'm going to go back onto her statement here, and let's see. All right, so we're talking about the jacket. It says a gray jacket. I will show you some clothing here. First, I will show you a gray jacket. Does this look anything like the jacket he had on? Yes, sir. That morning, similar to that. I didn't pay an awful lot of attention to it. Was it similar in color? Yes, sir, I think so. It had big sleeves. Take a look at these sleeves. Was it similar in color? I believe so. What is the commission exhibit on this jacket? It was gray. I'm not sure of the shade. Ball, 163. I will show you another shirt, which is commission number 150. Does this look anything like the shirt he had on? Well, now, I don't remember it being that shade of brown. It could have been, but I was looking through the screen and out the window, but I don't remember it being exactly that. I thought it was a solid color. There's another jacket, which is a gray jacket. Does this look anything like the jacket he had on? No, sir, I remember it being gray. Maybe that's the other. What exhibit number is this? No, sir, I remember it being gray. Well, this one is gray, but these two jackets I last showed you in commission exhibit number 162, and the blue jacket is 163. Now, if you had to choose between these two, I would choose the dark one. You choose the dark one? Yes, sir, which is 163, as being more similar to the jacket he had. Yes, sir, that I remember. But I didn't pay an awful lot of attention to his jacket. I remember the t-shirt and the shirt more so than I do the jacket. Now, here's something I just want to reiterate. This testimony, I don't see the date here, but it's being taken probably in the springtime. So probably 5 to 6 months later. I doubt that if someone came and talked to you about a person that passed you for like 5 seconds, and what color shirt and jacket they were wearing, I doubt that anyone, I know I couldn't, remember the details of that jacket or shirt. So we'll give her a break here. Let's see. I have no further questions. Senator, have you any questions? Senator Cooper, no questions. Have any questions, Mr. Powell? No, sir. I think I do have one, says Senator Cooper. Prior to the assassination of President Kennedy, did any FBI agents or police officer ever visit your house? No, sir. And said anything to you about Lee Oswald? No, sir. Mr. Jenner, could I ask Mr. Chief Justice along the line Senator Cooper touched on, whether you had any conversations with the neighborhood prior to the assassination of the FBI agents or police officers have visited in the neighborhood? No, sir. You heard nothing along rumors of that kind? No. Later, after it was all over, I had heard that he had been to Mrs. Payne's residence. Of course, there's no questions, no comments about, Mrs. Randall, had you ever heard that Oswald lived in Russia and had defected to Russia after he got out of the Marines? None of that question yet. But there was no excitement in the neighborhood up to that point. Mrs. Randall, no, sir. I have one question, Mr. Chief Justice. You used an expression there that the bag appeared heavy. Yes, sir. You meant that there was some weight appeared to be to the bottom. To the bottom. Yes, it tapered like it was like this as he hung it in his hand. It was more bulky towards the bottom than it was this way. Toward the top? More bulky towards the bottom than towards the top? That is right. I have no further questions. On that point, did you see Oswald place the package in the automobile? In the automobile, I do not know if he put it on the seat or on the floor. I mean, did you see him throw open the door? Yes, sir. When he placed the package in there, do you remember whether he used one hand or two? No, because I only opened the door briefly, and what made me establish the door on Wesley's car, it's an old car, and that door, the window is broken, and everything, and it is hard to close. So that cinched my mind which door it was too. It was only briefly that I looked. Wait, the window is broken? Does that mean the window is broken like out, or the window just didn't roll down? Because it rained that morning while they were driving to work, so wouldn't have the bag gotten wet if the window was broken? Anyway, Mr. Chief Justice, could I ask, how far away were you? You were at the kitchen door and the automobile was in the driveway. What was the distance between yourself and Mr. Oswald? Sir, I don't know. The carport will take 2 cars, and then Wesley's car was on the other side of the carport. So that would be 3 car lengths plus in between space. Car widths, excuse me. Was it light day? It was sort of cloudy, but there wasn't any, it wasn't dark or anything like that. Would you be good enough as to recall, can you recall what fabric of jacket was that Oswald had on this morning? Was it twill or wool or gabardine or cotton? Probably cotton or gabardine, something like that. Would repel water probably, and that is just my opinion. This is your present recollection. Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Mrs. Randall, thank you very much for coming. You may be excused. Now, it's interesting that they didn't ask her if she wanted to read or sign her statement, or we can mail it to you. I find that interesting. Maybe they talk to her another time. Let's go on with this statement here. All right, so this is the photo again. This is exhibit number 364. This is the fake FBI bag that they made about 10, 12 days later after the assassination. And they would present this bag to say, hey, is this what the bag looked like? So, I do find it interesting. I do find it interesting that there's only 3 witnesses that see the bag, but yet they take the time and effort to go get the material 10 days later and recreate a bag just for 3 witnesses instead of using the original bag there. I find that interesting. Let's see, what's on the next page here? Hold on one second. Let's go back. Let's see. All right. So we'll get out of those 2. And we're going to watch a video real quick of Lenny Mae Randall. Hold on one second. All right, so here we go. This is the little video that I have of Lenny Mae Randall.
Lenny Mae Randall lived across the street from the Payne house.
That's interesting because she didn't live across the street. She lived down this street, about 3 or 4 houses down on the same street.
Preparing lunches for my brother there at my sink, and I looked out the window and saw Mr. Oswald cross the street and come up across my driveway, and he had a brown paper bag in his right hand. It was about 27 inches long. It was made out of a heavy brown...
You see that? She said it was about 27 inches long. Let's do that again.
It was made out of a heavy brown paper with heavy-looking tape on it.
Incidentally, the search of the book depository building made after the assassination failed to turn up any curtain rods, and the furnished room, which Oswald was then occupying, was equipped with curtain rods.
So here's another thing that's interesting is that they failed to mention, or they failed to put in the circumstances that if someone could plant a rifle, okay, if someone could go up there and plant Oswald's rifle, because, I mean, think about it. Mrs. Payne could easily hand the rifle off to any member of the organization. Someone could come by the place while they're off grocery shopping, okay, and take the rifle, because remember, Mrs. Payne was gone grocery shopping. She bought a lot of groceries, remember? And then she came home, and Oswald was there on a Thursday, which is unusual for her. So she was gone. So anyone could have come into her house before Oswald got there, and before Mrs. Payne got there, and taken that rifle, okay, and placed it upstairs on the 6th floor that night. It wouldn't have been that much of a deal, okay? It wouldn't have been a big deal. And then anyone, Oswald brought the curtain rods or package or whatever was in the package, and maybe they told him to place it someplace. They could have easily taken the package also. If you can plant a rifle, you can definitely take the package. So don't let them fool you, or Dan rather fool you, with them saying that, oh, incidentally, the entire building was searched and no curtain rods were found.
Made an uncharacteristic trip to the Payne home Thursday night, returning to the book depository the morning of the assassination with a heavy-looking package that could pass for curtain rods. Was it the rifle? A difference of about 8 inches has made this one of the most contentious points for the critics. Within this package, I have a disassembled Mannlicher Carcano rifle identical to Oswald's. Now, before I tell you the dimensions, you might want to try to estimate them, as Mrs. Randall and Wesley Frazier did, from memory. Mrs. Randall variously estimated Oswald's package of curtain rods as 27 or 20 long. Her brother, Wesley Frazier, said about 2 feet, give or take a few inches. As a matter of fact, the disassembled Mannlicher is 34 and 8/10 inches long. Furthermore, Frazier...
All right, see, this is the thing I don't like about Dan Rather, is because he's reading shit, and whether he knows it's wrong or not, he's still propagating the myth. Okay, so let's take a look back down to where the rifle information was again. The Oswald's rifle is 37.1 inches long. Broken down and disassembled is 31.1 inches. Now, we measured that using the FBI's own measurements, okay? We measured it for the photo and found out it was 31.1 inches long. So for him to sit there and say that the rifle was 34 whatever inches is a complete lie, whether he knows it or not. Let's do that again. Hold on a second.
And 8/10 inches long. Furthermore, Frazier said Oswald, preceding him into the depository building, carried the curtain rods under his armpit with his hand around the bottom. Now, obviously, you can't carry this package that way.
You see? And remember, we did, if you'd watched the previous videos I did, I took a photo of the arrest of Oswald, and where he's standing at attention with his fingers, his hands down, his arms down on his side, and his fingers stretched out. And then we measured from the upper part of his armpit, because you can see the inches and the feet behind him on the wall, and measured from the upper part of his armpit down to the tips of his fingers. It was exactly 24 inches, exactly 2 feet long, just like Frazier said. Okay, so what they're trying to say here is that two people saw something that was 24 to 27 inches long, and it was actually 34 inches long, and they both got it wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. They're unreliable. They're just a bunch of, uneducated Southern hicks that can't measure shit. Okay, now let's, we'll go with that, because I wouldn't be able to tell you how long it was. All I could say is, okay, from the upper end of my underarm to my tips of my finger are whatever, 2 feet, 2.5 feet, whatever. But I don't know how far Oswald's was. But they got it right on the money, because if you look, like I said, we measured from that photo from Oswald in New Orleans, from his upper armpit to the tips of his fingers stretched out, was 24 inches. So they did a pretty damn good job coming within 3 inches. Wesley nailed it right at 2 feet. He had a long, more of a chance to look at it in the back seat. She saw it as 27 inches. Okay, so that's pretty good, I think. But you can see here, even Dan Rather, proves the point that the Warren Commission is full of shit, because the package, if it was the Oswald rifle, broken down is 31 inches. Okay, so if you go 31 minus 24, that's 7 inches that package is going to be sticking out below Oswald's fingertips. And Wesley Frazier saw it completely, that it wasn't sticking out, that he was grabbing the bottom of it. So this is where they try to convince the public, to go after the critics, say the critics don't know what they're talking about. But the facts are facts. 31 inches is beyond 27 inches, and 24 inches, and 24 inches is the length from Oswald's upper arm down to his fingertips. Matter of fact, let me do that again. Hold on 1 second. All right, so here we go. So here is the height chart at the New Orleans Police Department from when Oswald was arrested. Okay, you see here, it's 5'2", 5'4", 5'6", 5'8". He's a little bit more than 5'8". He's about 5'9". So he's between like 8 and 9. But yeah, we'll say he's 5'9". Okay. Now each one of, so this is 5'4", this is 5'6". So each one of these lines represents an inch. Okay. Now you can't see this, but I've got these little dashes over here that line my border of my screen. And each one of those I've lined up to be about an inch. Okay? So if we look and we see that, okay, that 1 inch here equals one of my little dashes over here, we can easily measure from like Oswald's armpit to his fingers. Alright, so if you want to say, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Say this is his armpit, okay? That's 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, hold on. We'll try it again. Actually, let's start from down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Right there. Right in his armpit. So from here to the tips of his fingers, because remember, and they're even curled a little bit right there, Remember, Wesley Frazier said that Oswald took the package and put it up in his armpit like that, okay, and then curled it up in his fingers like that. One question you got to ask yourself is, why would Oswald do that? Why not just grab the package in the middle of the package with your hand and just carry it in like that? Okay? Well, really obvious. If you're trying to diminish the number of people that are seeing you taking the package in, that's the way to do it. You put it under your arm, you know. Also, if you think about it, it's raining. So maybe it's drizzling a little bit. Maybe he put it under his arm to keep it from getting wet. But also it could be that he put it under his arm to cut down on the number of people seeing him carrying the package, because he was just carrying a package, you know, like a T or perpendicular to his body, or perpendicular to the ground, like a T or an X. More people would see the package. But this way you only have 2-3 people see the package, okay? And again, like I said about this photo, is real obvious. You see how Oswald, he's been out of the Marines. We got out in 59. This is 63. He's been out of the Marines for 4 years. But look at him. He's still Marine chisel jawed. He's still keeping his hair nice and trimmed. You see that? He's standing at attention like a Marine. This is right after he got arrested off of getting in that fight off New Orleans Street, or the main street there in New Orleans, right in front of the World Trade Center, matter of fact, owned by Shaw. So, to me, this photo in New Orleans says, yeah, I'm getting arrested, but it's for a cause. I'm a soldier, and I'm working for my government, and yeah, I'm going to take this one for the team, okay? It's no different than if some commander came up or some sergeant came up and says, we got to take that hill, okay, I need 3 volunteers to go take that hill. That's what Oswald's doing. He knows he could get killed. He knows that it's dangerous, okay, but he's a patriot. He's willing to sacrifice himself for his country. This is what Oswald is doing in New Orleans, okay? He's not some wild-eyed Ginsburg radical hippie, you know, saying Viva Fidel, no shit like that. He's a soldier. Look at that jaw. Look at that stern face. Oswald is a soldier. That's what he dreamed of being when he was a young kid, like his brother, to be in the military and serve his country. Matter of fact, you see right here, he's wearing his Marine bracelet. He doesn't have his watch, but he's got his Marine bracelet right there. I guarantee he's probably got his Marine ring on also. But that man right there is a soldier. He's standing at attention. I've stood at attention many, many times, many, many hours, in the rain, in the snow, and I know what that position is like. You don't just stand there casually. You know, if Oswald was protesting that he's getting arrested and was unjust, he wouldn't be standing at attention like that. Oswald's standing at attention because he's a soldier. He's fulfilling his mission. He thinks he's working for the government. Maybe he is. Maybe he's working for the FBI. Maybe the people he's come in contact with in New Orleans have convinced him that he's working for his government. Maybe he's working for some right-wing group that he knows or doesn't know that he's working for. But either way, he thinks he's doing his duty. Look at that face. Look at those eyes. Look at that mouth. Look at that chin. That is a soldier, my friend. That is not some wild-eyed radical revolutionary. All right. So we've established again 24 inches, just like Wesley Frazier said. 27 inches. We're going to give Lenny Mae Randall a break because, I can't measure shit if someone's carrying it and they're walking, from 10 feet away. I'd need a fucking tape measure right up next to me. So, she got it in the ballpark. 27 inches, a hell of a lot closer than 31 or 34. Okay? So let's keep going.
Oswald had gotten out of the car first and was
See?
then walking away from Frazier. The commission decided that Frazier easily could have been mistaken about Oswald carrying the package. Now, you can decide whether Frazier, walking some 50 feet behind and in his own...
Now, Frazier could see the package out the back of Oswald's arm. If you have the package like this, you're not going to see the package. And also, you see how the top barrel sticks up above the shoulder? So Frazier would have noticed that the barrel was sticking up above. He wouldn't say, no, it was under his arm.
Words, not paying much attention, might have missed a few inches of the narrow end of such a package sticking up past Oswald's shoulder.
Yeah, right. Again, we're going to go back to this book out affidavit or statement of Lenny Mae Randall. 3 feet 6 inches, 42 inches, my friend. Even that rifle in Dan Rather's video right there was only 34, and we're talking another 8 inches. It would have been sticking above Oswald's head. Oswald was only 5'8". Okay, so there's no way that package was 42 inches. Okay, that is an FBI agent named James Bookout inserting what he wants people to see when they read the report, because Lenny Mae Randall is not, in front of a notary, and Lenny Mae Randall is not signing this statement by Agent Bookout. So let's, this has got me curious. Who the hell is Agent Bookout? Let's find out who he is. So I've done a little research, what I can find on him. There's not much, but we're going to go over that. And I haven't read any of this yet, so it's all going to be new to me. All right, hold on one second. Okay, so this is from the prayerman.com website. Just want to give them credit for this. This is some kind of photo of James Bookout, I guess when he joined the FBI. He had attended law school, went to law school, SMU, which I believe is in Dallas, 1937. It says James Bookout was born on August 16, 1914 in Dallas. He graduated from Woodrow Wilson High School in the early 30s and earned his law degree from Southern Methodist University in 1937. Let's see, which one is he, though? Is that him there? Yeah, that's the only one that looks like him. Okay. Oh, yeah. And this is James Bookout. That's him right there. And it says, later he served as an FBI agent from 1942 to 1977. During those years, he was in charge of the Major Case Unit. He moved to Dallas in 1950 and helped solve countless bank robberies and worked behind the scenes on some of Dallas's most shocking crimes. Bookout interviewed Lee Oswald shortly after President John F. Kennedy's assassination. He did this along with James Hosty in Captain Wilfred's office. Bookout was called in to be the eyes and ears of the FBI, according to his son. James Bookout reports require a close examination. He often co-writes his first one with James Hosty, who sat in on the interrogations of Lee Harvey Oswald. Page 2 of this report of November 23, 1963 mentions the following. Oswald stated that he went to lunch at approximately noon and claimed he ate his lunch on the first floor in the lunchroom. However, he went to the second floor where the Coca-Cola machine is located and obtained a bottle of Coke for his lunch. Oswald claimed to be on the first floor when President John F. Kennedy passed the building. Well, that's pretty accurate right there. Let's see. Exhibits on display at FBI-sponsored conference. Dallas Ranger Captain Bob Crowder checks exhibit with FBI agents Manning Clements and James Bookout, both of Dallas. I guess this is Bookout again. Yeah, that's him. All right, so it says here, James Bookout, light suit, smoking a pipe. Pick Jim Murray, Black Star, ROKC. Scan from Richard Sprague collection at the National Archives. Thanks to Dennis Morissette for the ID. Yeah, there's Bookout. And this is the Homicide Bureau, so they're in there. There's all the guys from the Homicide Bureau, the white hats. So they're probably interviewing or going in to interview Oswald. And you remember that within like 2 or 3 days, I believe on Saturday, maybe Saturday night, that Hosty said that they received orders from D.C. to stop cooperating with the Dallas police and to not participate in the interrogations and stuff like that. So I don't know what that was all about. He said that Hosty said he was able to trace that order back to, I believe he said, was the second in command of the FBI. I can't remember the name right there. I think it's Williams or Webster, or one of those guys. But yeah, that's all the white hats there. All right, it says, but, oh, here we go. Let's see if he changes it. But in his second solo report, he turned things around. See? There you go. There's another evidence, more evidence of Bookout changing reports. Oswald stated on November 22nd, at the time of the search of the Texas Cook Depository building by Dallas police officers, he was on the second floor of said building, just having purchased a Coke from the soft drink machine, at which time a police officer came into the room with a pistol drawn and asked him if he worked there. Mr. Truly was present and verified that he was an employee of, and the police officer thereafter left the room and continued through the building. Oswald stated that he took his Coke down to the first floor and stood around and had lunch in the employee's lunchroom. He thereafter went outside and stood around for 5 or 10 minutes with foreman Bill Shelley. Interesting. We'll have to read what Shelley says about that. This second report is obviously a falsification to support the so-called second floor lunchroom encounter. Now, I don't agree with Prayer Man about this because this is another one, okay, verifying that Oswald was in the second floor lunchroom along with all these other people and Truly and Baker and all those guys. So what Prayer Man they try to do is say that Oswald, you know, they're trying to help him out with saying he was on the front. He was at the front steps behind, you know, Truly, behind Shelley, behind Frazier, you know, and if that's the case, then all of these people would have seen him because Shelley and Frazier and a couple other people went out from the steps and then came back to the steps, so they would have saw Oswald there. But I disagree with the Prayer Man hypothesis. All right, hold on one second. And don't get me wrong, I like these guys at Dealey Plaza UK and the Prayer Man. They got great photos, they got great information and documents. I just disagree with them on this one point because, you know, I'm reading evidence that's saying from 3 different people saying that Oswald was in the second floor lunchroom getting a Coke. No, four people, okay? And then we've also saw a video by Frazier that says Oswald came around the back up Houston from the loading dock and then went to Elm and then went up straight up Elm, that he saw him that way. So if Oswald's on the front, he would have just left and went straight up Elm. Okay? Anyway, I don't agree that Shelley saw him, and I don't agree that he hung around and ate his lunch in the lunchroom, nothing of that. I think what happened is that as soon as Baker and Truly confront him in the lunchroom, he realizes something's wrong. That something happened that wasn't supposed to happen, and then therefore he left the building out the back, just like Frazier said, went up Houston to Elm, and went up Elm to try to go to the Carousel Club or to the Adolphus Hotel to try to speak with someone in the organization to try to figure out, you know, what happened. Whether Oswald was in on the plot or trying to stop the plot, I'm not sure. It says book out in the back of the right corner wearing a rimmed glasses with the Winston Lawson of the Secret Service in front of him. So let's see. Is that book out right there? Yeah. Let's make this a little bigger. Hold on one second. I'm getting old and it's hard to see shit. Don't laugh. You'll be there soon. Anyway, suspect Lee Harvey Oswald charged with the assassination of President John Kennedy in Dallas is led through a swarm of reporters gathered at the Dallas Police Headquarters. Detective Captain Will Fritz, who is spearheading the investigation, told reporters he had a cinch case against Oswald Saturday. Book out again in the top right behind Winston Lawson and Lieutenant Baker. T.L. Baker, pick 4-star telegram. Thanks to Steve Rowe. I guess that's either him there or there. I think that's him right there. There's book out again. His Warren Commission testimony states that in commonplace procedure by FBI agents, that once they typed up a report is sent off, the original notes are destroyed. Huh, that's interesting. After Oswald is blown away in the basement, Bookout also gets a mention by L.G. Montgomery in Larry Sneed's No More Silence. S.A. Bookout asked me, "What did you do?" I told him, "You were right there, Bookout. We handcuffed Oswald. We walked around to the elevator, got on the elevator to go down. Where'd you go? You were right there with us." He got a little funny and said, "I walked back to the squad room and turned on the squawk box." I said, "Why?" I don't remember the exact wording of his response, but it was something to the effect of, "To hear the shooting. Didn't you know that the chief had received a call during the night that Oswald was going to be shot?" "Hello, hell no," I said. "I didn't. I was pretty angry at that time." Huh. His whole response, I thought, was very odd. He passed away in 2009. Isn't that crazy? You serve almost your whole life in the FBI, and all you get's like a little square, little concrete piece of shit on the lawn. Anyway. Good reports. Let's read these reports. Hold on one second. Actually, no, we're going to have to read them tomorrow because I got to move on. All right, so we're going to get back to the George DeMorn Show video soon, but we're still going to these Spy Museum topics by alphabetical order that have to do with intelligence, espionage, and spying. And so we're going to keep going down these terms and see how they apply to different characters and people inside the JFK assassination. Of course, I'm doing this off the cuff here. So clean, unknown to enemy intelligence. So when you think about that word, you're thinking about people that other people involved in an operation may not know about. Okay? So if you have this organization, say you've got the fire team, okay? And maybe they've met other people on the fire team, maybe they haven't. And maybe they've met other support personnel. They're going to get them out of there like with a waiting car or something like that. But there may be other people, okay, like radio contacts, the strike-back team. I said that they probably had a strike-back team that would attack the Secret Service, the FBI, the Dallas police, if they were able to corner some of the, the shooters or whatever. You'd have also other people that would handle safe houses that wouldn't be known by the shooters until the time they got there. Okay, so these people would be clean. They're unknown to the enemy intelligence. Okay, a cobbler, a spy who creates false passports, visas, diplomas, and other documents. Now, think about what happened right after the assassination. Right after the assassination, people they thought they'd heard the shooters shooting from the grassy knoll, so they all ran to the grassy knoll, okay? And a lot of people report, even policemen report, that they ran into Secret Service agents, the FBI agents, CIA agents, whoever you want to say, all flashing government credentials saying, hey, I'm with the FBI, hey, I'm with the Secret Service, we got this area under control, you might want to go check out over there. So these are people that would redirect the crowd. They were ready and waiting. Now, whether these were the shooters or whether these are other people standing by to allow the shooters to get away, I don't know. So I would think that you'd have one or two over by Elm Street, by that tree, behind the grassy knoll, and you'd have maybe another one over close to the triple underpass bridge to keep people away. And remember, Gordon Arnold, that's exactly what he said, that he tried to go over there near the triple underpass, and there was a guy that flashed credentials, he said CIA, and shoot him away. And then he went over again to the other side where the picket fence was, and there was another guy that flashed credentials, Secret Service, and said, go away. Now, I don't really buy Gordon Arnold, but out of all the things he said, that's the one thing that I believe that's probably pretty true there. He knows what he's talking about in that case. Code, a system of disguising a message by replacing its words with groups of letters or numbers. Now, we're going to see that Oswald had codes and ciphers written in his address book. So did Ruby. Okay, Ferry had codes. I would say even Marina was writing in codes. Okay, but she was substituting one word to mean something else. Like goats or chickens meant airplanes, and pigs meant tanks, and cows meant something else. So she could write back to Aunt KGB in code, and if someone was reading the letter, it would just sound like gobbledygook writing to your aunt about the last time they saw you or some shit like that, and about what America's like. But to the KGB agents, they would have already pre-established what these words would mean, okay, and they would mean some kind of code. She also, could have used some type of photographic something. Wouldn't be unheard of to use a microdot of some kind and maybe buried in the backyard, a microdot camera that spit out little microdots, and you could write messages. How it would work is you would write a message on a piece of paper, you would take a picture of that, and then develop it on the microdot. Then you would take the microdot and stick it behind the stamp, or stick it behind the envelope, okay, somewhere in the letter that people normally wouldn't look, okay? And then you would mail off the letter, and they'd have a microdot, and they'd have a whole big thing of information there. Possible. I don't know. Code book, a list of plain language words opposite their code word or code number. Again, there's been no proof that a code book was found, but if she's smart and the KGB would have trained her, she would have memorized the code words, so she wouldn't need a code book. Maybe the person who is working it back in Moscow would have a code book. Okay, Colossus. Colossus was an electronic device that helped solve German cryptograms, the world's first electronic computer. Now, Colossus is basically just some kind of decipherment tool that they could go through and decipher what the codes meant on the Enigma machines. All right, hold on one second. All right, so when it comes to ComNet, it says all intelligence gathered from intercepted communication. So the FBI and the CIA would develop comment, say for example in Mexico City. Okay, so if Oswald had come in and started doing his little presentation, they would have written that back to a center in Moscow, or to even the Russians. I mean, the Cubans would have contacted the Russians. They would have contacted also, the head of Cuban intelligence in Havana, and they would have used codes and encryption to send that. And hopefully, if we're on our game, we would have been intercepting that radio traffic, intercepting that telegraphic traffic somehow, some way. Okay, and this is probably one of the reasons why a lot of this documents don't get released until 50 years later, because we don't want the enemy to know that we had the capability, even back then, of intercepting what they were putting out there, okay? So, because if they think that they were able to communicate in the clear, they don't have to they don't have to second guess what they said and go back and try to figure out if maybe something wasn't said correctly. Anyway, all right, so keep going. Compromise: when an operation, asset, or agent is uncovered and cannot remain secret. All right, hold on a second. Okay, so in relation to the JFK assassination, if we're going along this line that, you know, Marina Oswald was probably an asset of the KGB sent over to report back what she saw and report back on Oswald, she was probably compromised. They probably knew from the letters she was sending, from information they found inside the house, a code book or something, if she was stupid enough to write shit down, that presented with this information, presented with the fact that, hey, if you don't cooperate, you're never going to see your children again. You're going to be seeing the inside of a prison till the day you die because you help, you know, we're going to go to court saying you helped Oswald as an agent of the Soviet Union kill the President of the United States. And that's going to be our, of course, that's not what they're going to do, but she doesn't know that, okay? So they can say whatever the hell they want. And especially, like I said, you don't have to brainwash people to get them to cooperate or do things. All you got to do is just dangle out there their children. You're never going to see your children again. We're going to adopt them out. They're never going to know who you are. You're going to be rotten inside a prison. A lot of people don't care what's going to happen to them, but they worry about what's going to happen to their children. You know, and then we're going to tell them that their mother was an accomplice to the murder of the President of the United States. And they should be lucky that we adopted them out to another family. That way she doesn't have to be raised by this traitor murderer like you. Most people would break with that, okay? Most people would break. I think that's probably what happened. That's why you see her out there. She basically buries Oswald, saying he was crazy, abusive, all these horrible things that she said. And then later, 10, 15 years later, she's changing her tune. Oswald was, you know, didn't kill him and all these. She's complete 180. Okay? And that's probably after, you know, the kids are grown up and shit like that. So, that's what happened there. Let's see what else we have. A controller, officer in charge of an agent, a handler. Well, you know, there's Maurice Bishop. You know, Oswald probably had a handler. A control agent was probably Hosty or one of those guys. You know, Marina probably had a handler, a controller back in Moscow, Aunt KGB that she was writing to. Okay. De Mohrenschildt probably had some kind of controller or handler, you know, along with Ruth Payne, probably the same guy, probably an FBI agent, you know, giving them money, collecting the information that they had gathered, copies of Marina Oswald's letters, things like that, okay? Counterintelligence, the business of thwarting the efforts of foreign intelligence agencies, includes, but is not limited to, spy catching. Okay, so the KGB, I think it's Department 4 or 3, back then, it's been a while, is really good at catching spies. Okay? They're really good at figuring out who is being compromised by the FBI or the CIA and being used. So what they do is they send out false information. Okay. They'll put out 90% good information, and then what they'll do is they'll make a list of suspects, okay, that people that are going to get that information. And then say you got 5 suspects, each suspect will have 90% of the same information, but 5 of it is geared a little different, okay, and that's the marker for that person, okay. So then when they find out, when they have their people in our FBI and their people in our CIA that report back that this information was gathered from this unnamed, Agent QX or something like that, they'll look at it and say, and I'll give an example. Like, everyone will get the same information that Russian missiles, can go have an elevation, can fire up to 200 miles, into space. Okay? But then on the change on that, 4 of them will get information that's completely different. Like, the return parachutes are not that great, or the heat shield is iffy, 50% chance of working, 50% chance of not working. And then the person that they find they'll have the information like, we need to get information from the American NASA program on better navigation, communications or something like that. And it'll just go, that'll be that specific piece of information will be just to that one agent. And then when it comes back, through their people in the U.S. government, and it says that, then they know it was Agent A or whoever they gave that to that did that. So that's how they're able to bust people, okay? They also, they tap people's phones. They tap people's bank accounts. Believe me, anybody coming to the U.S. or outside of Russia, they're going to have their family. This is before they go, they're going to give them pictures of their family. Okay, this is a picture of your grandma, and this is a picture of your grandchildren, and this is a picture of your daughter going to school. And we just want you to know that if you betray us, it's not just going to be you that's going to be paying. They're going to pay. And you won't know what that's going to be, but we guarantee you won't like it. Okay? Because we catch you, we're just going to kill you. But we catch them, we're probably going to torture them. We're probably going to not give your grandma that medical treatment that she needs for her Alzheimer's or whatever. She's not going to get that food allowance or that cheaper apartment that she needs in her retirement age. So that's a good incentive to get people not to betray their country. Okay? So, in that sense, you see the same thing, but you want to flip it with Oswald. Okay? Why didn't Oswald just say, hey, I didn't kill the president, and here's who did, or I'm so-and-so, and I knew this, and I knew that. Why didn't he just spill the beans immediately? Okay? Because somebody had him under control. Look, Oswald, you go along with this. Just hang in there. If you get arrested, we'll come get you out. It'll all blow over. And just hang in there, but don't you fucking blab, okay? You can talk about anything but this. If you do talk about this, your family, your wife, your 2 children, you'll never see them again. You end up in prison for killing the president, all this kinds of stuff. And that's why Oswald sat there tight-lipped, even though he's protesting his innocence. That's all he really could do. All right. We'll go here. Let's see. Cover. The purported occupation or purpose of an agent. It must be consistent with the agent's background and presence in the target area. This is like a legend, okay? But it's a little more than a legend. So your Oswald's, okay, let's see, we'll say, okay, so Oswald's cover would be that he was working at the Texas School Book Depository. He got this job through Mrs. Payne, and he was a really good order filler, and that's a pretty poor cover, but that would be his cover, and he would never tell anybody that, okay? His legend, he knows he never uses his legend when he goes off to the Texas School Book Depository. When he goes to Moscow, he uses that legend to cover his ass to show that, yeah, I am sincere. He also uses the encounter and confrontation at the embassy, the U.S. embassy that's wired for sound for the Russians, to hear him saying these things, that I'm going to renounce my citizenship, going to give up the Russians all the secrets that I know, that would cover him right there. Okay? All right, we'll keep moving on. It says covert action operation, an operation designed to affect foreign affairs, may be lethal or non-lethal. Well, the assassination of the President of the United States would probably be the most covert action operation ever conducted. Okay? Because the end result and effect of that was a change in foreign affairs, and it definitely was lethal, okay, and a change in the government and the way we handle our almost every relationship that the United States dealt with. Cuba, Vietnam, France, China, and the UK, and Russia. Cryptology, the science of writing in all its forms. And again, they would have taught Marina some kind of cryptological writing codes that she could use right back to Aunt KGB. Oswald was obviously writing in codes. He had been, given a book on it to study, been taught somewhere, maybe, when he was in the Marines, on how to write in code for a reason. You just don't teach a radar operator how to write in code for no reason. All right, hold on one second. Okay, in relation to the JFK assassination, well, there's the Raleigh call. Okay, so the Raleigh call was, I believe it was the 23rd, Saturday night. Oswald called a number. Well, he didn't call it, but he had two Secret Service agents, listening in. He went to a phone. He gave a number to be connected, and it was a number in Raleigh. And the Secret Service agents told the operator in the jail do not ring the number, and to tell Oswald that no one answered. Okay? And then Oswald went back to his cell. Well, again, the cutout would have been the person in Raleigh that would have received that call. Okay? So if the call had been able to go through, it would have been something like this. Hi, Aunt Jean. Yeah, I won't be able to make dinner tonight, but tell Uncle Bob that we can still go fishing on the 13th if he still wants to. I'll make sure that I bring my lures. Okay? And those would all be code words that this cutout would have no idea what it meant. He would just write it down. Okay? And then when the call ended, he would call the number he was given if Oswald called, and to give them the message, and then those people would know the code words that Oswald was in trouble, or something, and then they could, take action from there. Okay, so cutout is basically an intermediary between those persons. That way, if Oswald's working with some agent in intelligence, some officer, they can't compromise them. Okay, I wished that they had gone, and the House Select Committee had gone and taken all of this Raleigh guy's numbers that he had called immediately after Oswald's call that night for the next 24, 48 hours and see where any of those numbers led. That would have been interesting. Because the guy that he called was an ex-intelligence officer in the military who was basically compromised with mental illness and with arthritis and things like that. Which, again, like I said, a lot of people dismiss mentally ill people or people with mental illness because they don't think people think that you have to have a sane person to carry out a mission for you, or to carry out, or to be used for a certain purpose. But again, like I said, a mentally ill person or a criminal is perfect when especially you're conducting operations that you can't just shine the light on. Okay, so you can always just deny that you knew anything about this person. That person's crazy. They don't know what they're talking about. And I'm sure if the HSCA had tracked the numbers that he called immediately after Oswald called, if they'd let the call go through, that those people would have said, no, it was the guy was a crazy crank. He was a nut. In reality, the guy was making crank calls to the governor and things like that, and the police had come by a couple of times. So that person's perfect, okay? Because he's going to have an associate from intelligence that the intelligence operation has contacted and said, hey, Bob, you remember me? Remember all those crazy times we had back in the military? And, oh, yeah. Look, the guys upstairs have asked me to ask you to help us out. You're still a patriot, right? Yeah, when I have all my facilities together. Okay, good. Well, they know your situation, and they're willing to help you out, especially with that VA application on that arthritis you've got. So all they want is you just to, do this one thing. If you ever get a call from Lee Oswald or Alex Heidel or whatever his name they give him, take down the message and call this number. Okay? You shouldn't get anything, but in case you ever do, write it down, take the message, and then call this number within 24 hours or something. Okay? And just read back the message. Okay? And that way, it doesn't, a crazy person, you can just dismiss them. Oh, he's just crazy. The guy was making crank phone calls. Maybe Oswald misdialed the number. Da-da-da-da-da. Okay? That's a cutout. Ruby, Ferry, they were all using cutouts. Okay? Ruby was making phone calls to this lady in Chicago. Okay? Ferry was calling the same lady in Chicago around the same dates. Okay? And they found out that this lady was calling Ruby and calling Ferry also back. So they were using cutouts to communicate with each other. Okay? Makes a lot of sense. And again, with Marina Oswald, she's using that Ant KGB cutout, that she can write letters to. It doesn't have to be just phone calls. She can write letters to Ant KGB. Oh, the weather here is great. It's really hot. I saw 5 cows yesterday up on the north side of Dallas and 2 eagles, And that's the way she can report back. All right, a dangle. A person sent by intelligence agency of his or her own country who approaches an intelligence agency in the hope of being recruited as a spy so as to allow a double agent operation for the purpose of intelligence collection or disinformation. Okay? Now, you could say that Oswald was a dangle. Okay? They trained him to send him to the Soviet Union to put his services out there. Hey, I'm willing to work with you guys as a dangle. But the KGB says they didn't bite. Okay? And his KGB files show that they didn't think he was mentally stable enough to be an agent for them. Okay? But that's a dangle right there. That's exactly how that works. You could have had also a situation where Marina, stuck over at Six Flags being grilled by the FBI and the Secret Service, switches the tables and decides that she's going to be a dangle for the Soviet Union. Yeah, I was working for the Soviets under duress. They were, threatening my family and stuff like that. I'm willing to work with you guys now and tell you all that I know. But she could be sincere, or she could have been trained to do that and to give them false information about whatever. She could be a false dangle, okay? All right, a dead drop, a secret location where materials can be left for another party to retrieve. Now, Oswald used these P.O. boxes, okay? A P.O. box is a perfect dead drop, okay? Because the postmen are just putting mail in there, okay? If you write a little note, okay, and give a key to the other person and say, look, never communicate with me directly. Just go to my P.O. box, use the key, and leave me a message there, or I'll leave a message for you there. They can leave it in an envelope, just leave a little note, whatever. They'll never have to see each other, and no one will ever know. Another dead drop, like I was saying, was that the bathroom stall. They could have a meeting every Thursday at 12 p.m. or 5 p.m. at the Greyhound bus station bathroom stall, and they'll meet there, okay? And then pass information's under the stall, pass packages under the stall. That's kind of a dead drop. Another one was, there's no proof that Oswald was doing this. They would have no reason to find this, but Oswald had a lot of empty, you see in the pictures, empty camera roll cases with no film in it. Okay, what was he keeping all those for? Well, those camera roll cases are really good for dead drops. You can take those, you can put stuff in it, you can seal it on the top, maybe put some tape around it. You can take that over to a park somewhere. A cemetery works really good for a dead drop because nobody really messes with the cemetery. They're not going to build a house there in the cemetery. You're not going to come back a year later and find, it's been plowed down and they built a factory or something there. So cemeteries are really good. Cemeteries and parks are really good for dead drops because that's a place that is going to be around for a while. This guy, Robert Hansen, was using a couple of bridges and a couple of trees for dead drops that he would place those camera cases. He'd put information in there or put a package and put it under the bridge, or he put it, by a tree under a rock, places like that. Really, really good. You want to put where no one else is going to be going there, okay? Maybe a culvert pipe, things like that. Dead drops, there's a million different places for dead drops. If you watch the Americans, you'll see that they use a series of open codes, okay? So like on the side of a mailbox facing towards the street, or on a telephone pole facing towards the street that no one would see unless you're driving by. So you know that every Thursday at 3 o'clock, you're supposed to drive by this telephone pole, okay? And when you drive by the telephone pole, if there's a big white X right there, you know that the dead drop for that month or that week is active. So you know to go by the dead drop, pick up your package, okay? And that's how they would do dead drops like that. That's how Robert Hansen was doing it. If you watch the Americans, that's how they're doing it. Pretty common thing there. Let's see. Disinformation. The Soviet and Russian term for disinformation operations designed to pass false information to the enemy. Well, the Russians are really good at this. They've been doing it for a long time. Just recently, they've been doing a lot of disinformation about COVID the last 3 years. Saying that it was invented in China, and they would run an article about these CDC sites at Wuhan, and they've been doing the same thing in Ukraine about these chemical biological warfare sites that the U.S. was sponsoring in Ukraine to dispose of chemical weapons. And then they were switching it around, saying that, yeah, they're chemical sites, but they're producing chemical weapons. They did the same thing in Georgia with this site, saying that the Georgians, with the American help, were creating biological weapons, and they were going to use these drones to fly into Russia and spill the biological weapons. It was all false, fake information. Okay, the Russians are really good at that. I'd say disinformation in regards to the JFK assassination, okay, would be that Nicaraguan guy, I can't remember his name right now, that came in and volunteered information to the FBI saying he saw Oswald at the Cuban embassy talking to a red-haired guy that was head of the Assassinations Bureau of the Cuban intelligence, saying I was being paid money by this guy, and a bunch of BS, because no one would have seen that. No one's going to leave the door cracked so they can give some guy inside the embassy money to go kill the president of the United States. If they're going to do that, they're going to do it a lot more discreet, and especially not inside the fucking embassy, okay? And they're not going to have it anywhere where anyone could see that. But that was disinformation put out by either right-wing elements of the FBI and CIA, okay, to try to pin it back to Cuba. Because, again, see what you have here is you have people that benefited from the assassination, like Johnson, who were against Kennedy and for the assassination but didn't plan the assassination, okay, and wanted to just leave it at the doorstep of Oswald. Okay, they became president. That's all they wanted to do. They didn't want to start World War III. But then you had people inside the military, right-wing elements inside the CIA, inside the FBI that wanted to extend it from Oswald back into Cuba, and they thought that they could, if they did that with disinformation, that they could get the U.S., the public outcry to invade Cuba and start a war with the Russians, and hopefully we would win. But, millions of people would die. But that's disinformation on our end. That's different information on the Russian end. The CONINTELPROs against the FBI was conducting against the Malcolm X, against the Black Panthers, against the Civil Rights Movement. All forms of disinformation. Okay? All right, let's see what else we got here. A discard. An agent whom a service will permit to be detected and arrested so as to protect more valuable agents. Well, who's the biggest discard in all of the JFK assassination? Oswald. Okay? So Oswald was the discard that was dangled out there to focus attention away from Ernie and everyone else, okay, and all to focus it on him, okay? So he was definitely the discard agent in the JFK assassination. A double agent, a spy who pretends to be working against one country, but who is in fact for that country's opponent, often a conduit of disinformation. So, if you think about the JFK assassination, it's possible that Oswald was a double agent. Okay, not for the Russians, okay, but inside the right wing. So it could be two things. It could be that Oswald was working for RFK and the Justice Department, okay, and maybe even the FBI, regular elements of the FBI against the right-wing elements, okay, that were against peace and compromise and Kennedy and stuff like that, and was infiltrating them, okay, in New Orleans and Dallas, in the FBI and the right-wing groups, the Birchers, all this stuff, or the Cubans, or that, and then what they did is later on, they figured out he was a double agent, and then they hung him out to dry as the discard, okay? Or it could have been that Oswald, when we see some of this when he goes into that Cuban restaurant or bookstore, and then he has a fight with the guy the next day, that Oswald was, crazy, left-wing, radical, communist Marxist, and was trying to play as pro-right-wing, anti-JFK, and then got caught up in all that, and then again was used as the discard. All right, so dry clean. Actions agents take to determine if they are under surveillance. Okay, so if you think about this situation, okay, it makes a lot of sense, okay? Think about what Oswald did with the bus and with the cab, okay? So he got on the bus to make him look like he was on the bus. They were going to be following the bus. Then he would have got out of the bus, gone over and got in the cab. He's lost some people there. Then from the cab, he has him go down and drops him off 2-3 blocks past where he was staying. That way he could walk back, okay, to his house, but also could see the agents trailing the cab, okay? So that's something that you would either be taught or you'd read about. other means of dry cleaning is what Oswald, or whoever discarded the jacket, okay? Because somebody, whoever shot Tippit, discarded their jacket, put it under a car, and then, it was later on found. This is the problem I have, that you can't really clear Oswald, because he was seen leaving the rooming house with the jacket, okay? Then a jacket, Tippit was shot, then a jacket was discarded, and then Oswald was caught in the theater without a jacket. So again, I'm leaning 50-50 that Oswald shot Tippit, because Tippit was part of the right-wing group that was trying to nail Oswald, okay, as the discard. And he didn't want to be the discard. He knew that they had lied to him and said, oh yeah, we'll get that information to the FBI and let them know this group is trying to kill the president, and don't worry, we'll take care of it. And then he realized that Tippit and Ruby were in on the plot all along, and they were just playing him, okay? And so maybe he shot Tippit. Anyway, let's see. We're almost done here. We'll stop here, and we'll go on because we're at 116. And we'll just keep going through all these. And like I said, you may read over something or see something, and if you don't know these terms, the vocabulary, and the way these things are done, it may just go right over your head. And you'll say, oh, that was weird. Why did he get rid of his jacket? Oh, that was weird. Why did he have little scribbles inside his address book? And then you'll blow past it, and you'll be like the Warren Commission, where you won't think twice about it again. Okay, and you'll change the subject, onto something else. But if you're aware of these terms and aware of these things, how they're done, then when you go through and read things again, or read these testimonies and say, oh, he did this and he wore that and he said this, then it'll start to become clearer that there was some kind of intelligence involved in the assassination, because of the way they act, the way they respond, the way he responds, all these things. Okay? All right. So we'll keep going on, driving on again tomorrow. Take care.